to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Passon and I am a relationship expert, international speaker and best-selling author of the book Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because, in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news or social media, TV, the perception given to people is wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, and listen to what real people think, do, or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. And here today we have Lesley Brandon. Hi, Lesley.
Hey, hi.
How are you?
All good, all fine.
Happy days. So what we're going to talk about is actually meeting a partner at work, because it is common, but it's actually not that common either. So tell us a little bit about yourself first, please.
Okay, so, for me, when I met my other half, the company I was working for, I'd been overseas for a long time prior to that. So I used to work in travel and tourism. And so I was overseas for 10 years. Came home, I was in a prior relationship for 9 years, but then when I came home, that all kind of fizzled out. And actually kind of settled myself to be a happy Bridget Jones at that point. Because I'd got my little house, was quite happy, and thought that that was my lot. So my background being that, I was the manager for 20s holidays for a long time. So I lived overseas. I was in Ibiza for 6 years, and just totally enjoying life, loving life. But then through kind of personal tragedies and stuff with my dad being ill, which is what brought me back home, on a different path. Otherwise, I don't know, I probably would still be out somewhere. I might be here. But yeah, you just never know. So yeah.
What was your idea of love when you were younger?
My ideal of life, believe it or not, when I was little, when I was kind of my daughter's age, and my daughter's 7 now, and when I was in secondary school, I had some fantastic opportunities through my school to go travelling, and never ever wanted to go. It never appealed to me. And I mean, I had, through my secondary school, had the opportunity to be in Bethlehem on Christmas Day.
Fair enough.
Which my dad was like, go, we'll pay. And I was like, but it's Christmas, I want to be with my family. And at that age, really kind of didn't see and couldn't see the bigger picture, could only really kind of see family. And it's only as I got older and then started going off on girly holidays, did I get the travel bug. And that's kind of what life looked like to me. And so I made sure my actual trade is hairdressing. So I made sure I got my trade, done well at what I as a hairdresser and stuff. And then went off, done a bit of travelling, just went out as a worker. And then came back, thought I could settle, got a salon, realised I couldn't.
Yeah.
Engaged at that point as well, stupidly. That was my first engagement ring. And then realised that wasn't what my life was going to be, and then went back overseas with the tour operators, and then quite happily stayed there for the next 10 years. So that's what life looked like to me back then. Really didn't want to settle, really didn't want to be in the UK, and the world was a big place to go and venture in. How I looked on life.
So what was the relationship journey, so to speak? Because you've just mentioned that you were engaged once and obviously probably too young and wanted to see the world. So what's the journey?
So the journey with the relationship. So as a teenager, typical, boyfriend relationships and things like that. Then kind of met my first big love, if you like, when I was 19, I think I was. I met him in Hammersmith Pally on New Year's Eve, and then ended up getting engaged to him. And that relationship was very much I'm quite a strong person, but actually, even at that early age, lost my identity.
Okay.
Very jealous, very possessive. I'm a very outgoing person, but then I kind of ended up going down a road of not putting on makeup and stuff, because if another Mal looked at me, it just provoked an argument, and it was just hell. And then that relationship actually ended because he went off with someone else. So all the exes,
fair enough.
and then he was the one that went off.
Yeah.
So that was that one, and actually got engaged on my 21st birthday, of which I laugh about now with my friends. And then kind of my second big love was when I was overseas, and that was a guy who I met and worked with. So we was together for 9 years. So he was a big chunk of my life. But again, I think because our paths needed to go in different routes, when I needed to come home, he very much wanted to stay out there. That's where, it was, it all started going wrong. Well, actually, it started going wrong probably a year after we started seeing each other. But, when you stay in something because something's thing. And then that ended, but we did stay friends, and then was single for kind of 2 years when I came home. And then when I met Mark, I said to my said to my ex that I've met somebody, I really don't think it's fair. And then that was when he just was like the Duracell bunny, went on absolute overdrive, and just got to the point where I couldn't even put my phone on, being hounded, even because I had a really good relationship with his mum. And I think even his mum slapped him and said, for God's sake, leave that girl alone. So it's a shame, because I thought we could be friends and stay friends, but that couldn't happen. And then started working at Reliance, knew Mark for a year as a friend. He was actually in another relationship at the time, so I knew that it was like a no-go. We was just friends.
Did you actually quite like him? Did you know there was something special about him at that point, or was it just one of those?
God, no, but he had a girlfriend, so it's that rule, you don't go there. And then the finance manager of the office at the time, she knew that I liked Mark. But he didn't know, because he had a girlfriend, and he thought I had a boyfriend, but I didn't. But we all used to go out socially, to the point where the whole Crawley office used to end up sleeping in my 1-bedroom house. So there just used to be bodies everywhere, because we'd go out socially as a group, because we were all really good friends. And it was social gathering, a bit like how it used to be with the Southampton office and the different in the Reading office. So Mark didn't know that I liked him, and then I distinctly remember I was travelling from my home because I was working in Bristol that week, and I'd stopped off at the head office in Uxbridge, so I had to pick a few bits and pieces up, do a bit of work, and then the finance manager called me, this was on the Monday morning, saying, "Have you heard the news?" And I went, "What news?" And she said, "Mark split up with Joe." And I went, "Well, get off the phone then." And then emailed Mark straight away. And just basically, I still remember the email, because I'd done it as my wedding speech on how we met, but I'd done it as a cabinet speech. And so basically I emailed him and said, "Sorry to hear about your bad news, but what you doing Thursday night?" To which point he then phoned me. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Oh, I've heard you just split up with Joe." And we was laughing, and he didn't have a clue that I liked him. So I went off to Bristol, and then when I came back, we met up on the Thursday, and then that's how we got together. So, but yeah, it was, he was with someone else, so that it was a no-go zone.
And how did you find it? Obviously, because you were kind of working together, did you get on to people around you, apart from maybe that finance director or manager, sorry? Did you get on to other people, or was it a big secret?
Everybody knew that I liked Mark, but it was just, because he had a girlfriend.
No, but when you got together, did you keep that as a secret or not?
Oh, no, because everybody knew that I liked him anyway, and everybody was really happy for us. Because again, and the great thing was, we was friends for a year, and socially with everybody else, so we kind of knew each other. Prior to going into that relationship, so it wasn't so much of meeting somebody, the unknown, and you know, all of that finding out, because we kind of knew what each other was like, because we worked together, we all went out socially together, and it was a real fun place to be, and to be around. So no, everybody was totally pleased for us. So there was nothing to hide. It was just like, we knew it had happened. It was just a matter of when.
Fair enough. So obviously some people believe in marriage and some don't. We all have our own views, but you got married. Was it important to you? Was it something you've always wanted, or did it just happen? Or
I think it was for me. It wasn't. It was because I was older. So because I kind of went out and had a life before settling, you know, as I don't know what people call normal, you know, if it's the normal thing or kind of like the older generations. But yeah, so I was the one that went out and had a life, really. So when me and Mark got together, I was older. So I was 39 when I got married. So I kind of said, if we're going to do it, when he asked me, it was hard because I didn't have my dad around. And when my dad told me that he had cancer and stuff, even though at that point I was with my ex and had no intention of getting married, the absolute first thought that went through my head was, oh my God, you're never going to walk me down the aisle. So that was the hardest part for me. So when Mark asked me to marry him, totally wanted to marry him, and I was ready to get married because, like I say, I was 39. But the hardest part was, I don't know how I can do it. I want to marry you, but I don't know how I can do it without my dad. So I kind of said, right, we'll do it barefoot on the beach in Barbados. So that way there's no aisle, there's no church, and, you know, it's a million miles from tradition kind of thing. But then his mum wouldn't travel, my mum wouldn't travel.
I was going to say, I don't recall you being barefoot.
No, I said it'd be all the bees. So then I said, okay, because my mum wouldn't do it, his mum wouldn't, it wouldn't be fair on them. So it was like, okay, how can I do it without being, you know, in floods of tears going up the aisle? So my actual best friends are guys. So on sort of one of our first dates with Mark, and I said, look, you know, I'm older, I'm very comfortable with who I am. My best friends are guys. You can either get your head around that or you can't. But the guys will be with me all through my life till we pop our clogs, and we'll be pushing each other around in wheelchairs because those boys have been in my life where boyfriends have come and gone, but they're my friends. And it's hard, I suppose, for a guy to accept that a girl has got, and, you know, one of them is an ex-boyfriend. But it's just like, didn't work out. We was 18, but we're better off as friends. We would have killed each other.
I'm with you on that one. I mean, a lot of my friends are actually ex-boyfriends. Just because you like someone, you like them. The fact it didn't work out doesn't mean you shouldn't want to spend time with them. You know, you still like them as a person.
So, you know, and Mark kind of accepted that. And I said, look, you know, I will be having boys' nights out. You won't be invited. Even to the point where I had a stag party as well as a hen party, of which people find amusing. But it was just like, how can I get down the aisle without my dad? So my second home is Ibiza. So I had a pair of cowboy boots from Ibiza. I had my dad's socks on, a picture of my dad in my socks. And then I had the boys, and we danced down the aisle to Adamant and Dario G. And the boys knew that I would get upset, so they all had red noses. So the minute I started getting upset, they all put the red noses on. So the whole wedding was about fun. And just, you know, smiling, fun, and just something that was memorable. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't about being big and flash or anything like that. It was about creating happy memories, happy times, great people together. And having fun.
And obviously, like in any relationships, you know, they are sometimes challenging times. So what would you say pulls you through together?
It's being able to talk, and I mean, to be fair, I call Mark Bert, so we've been together 16 years now. Gosh, was it that long ago?
Yeah.
So we've been together 16 years, we've been married 12. And we've never, I think, apart from once in all that time, had a row. But I think that's because with my prior relationship, every day was an argument.
Mm.
So I just kind of vowed to myself that that's not a good place to be, and I'm riled out.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, don't get me wrong, I could happily throttle him half the time, and he could me. I'm an awkward person to live with, very controlling. But it's learning about each other, knowing when to kind of talk, knowing when not to talk, when to shut up. Um, but also other things that has kind of given me tools as well are things like Myers-Briggs.
Mm-hmm.
And your kind of type indicators, which Mark has only just done here, so I've just qualified in it. So again, learning just about personality types, so different skills that I use at work help in relationships, and standing back, and also because at the moment I'm sort of heading, I'm in menopause, so again, that's how I know that I've got to control some of my stuff, because it's not fair on him.
But I think
Um,
that's quite key, and that's where a lot of people often lose their own ways. Is that first of all, it's knowing your own flaws because we all have them.
yeah,
It's accepting that they're there and how we can sometimes turn them into
yeah,
positive too.
yeah,
It's recognizing when we are in the wrong, but it's also accepting their flaws because I think sometimes people get together in the hope that something will change. Where actually, if you can't live with the flaws right at the beginning, they're just going to get worse, aren't they?
yeah, exactly. And Mark knows that because I'm a very independent person and very strong, I need my space. That's why at the moment I'm loving the job that I do, because I've got a bit of travel back, because I'm going to places I probably would never have gone to, but it gives me space, it gives me my time. And I think when you're wife, when you're mummy, you lose you, and you totally lose you. um, and when you've been really independent and kind of haven't needed anybody, when you've got needy people that are around you, it does zap me. So he knows that I need my time away from him and from like a daughter, um, because that's when I need to totally recharge and get my energy externally, to kind of be a better wife and a better mum.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, it's like in May I went back to Ibiza for 5 days and just totally had a blowout, but I needed it,
Yeah.
because then I think otherwise things get very, and you kind of start picking and getting on top of each other. So it's knowing when to back off. He gets his energy and space on the golf course, so
Mhm.
it's letting him have those opportunities, the same as me having my opportunities.
Yeah. And one of the
So
questions I had was what makes for a great relationship? And it's exactly that. It's knowing one another and your needs.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. And I have to watch, because again, like I say, I'm a very independent person, totally used to being on my own, making my own decisions and stuff. So I struggle when I have to incorporate others and include others. Um, and me and Mark know that we both see a picture very differently. So if he asks me how to do something, I'll explain it, but then I have to double check, because I know his vision is the polar opposite of what I've told him to do,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. So again, we have to, even that came apparent doing the garden at the weekend. So I was trying to explain, he was wanting to do something, I was trying to explain to him about the vision, but then we had to clarify that we was both looking at the same picture to get the same ending, because we'll see it from totally different angles. So we know that about each other.
And I think sometimes it's not just expectations on that one. It's just, as you say, you've got your own idea in your head. And because you've kind of voiced it and you think that the person, well, obviously after all these years, knows you well enough, but actually doesn't mean that that picture matches what's in their head. And so many people get that wrong.
Yeah, totally. And and so many times there'll be something, well, he'll ask me something, And if I'm not thinking straight, or I've got other things that I'm doing, and I'll give him an answer, but then I'll come back and it's totally not what I intended it to be. But then I'm like, do you know what? It's actually my fault, because I didn't take the time to see the picture, because I know your picture is totally different from mine. So, you know, again, it's kind of learning that. It's like with Mark's wedding ring as well, because we are very opposite. And with his wedding, it's two halves. So there's a smooth half and a rough half. So he's the smooth and I'm the rough. So, you know, that's where it kind of like makes the partnership and the relationship. So, and, you know, very much with Mark, and he'll admit this himself, he didn't live until he met me. Mark's a follower. So, you know, it was going out and seeing the world through a different lens, which he'd never seen before. So it was kind of, that's what he likes, is because it's given him life. I think on his 30th birthday with his ex-girlfriend, they sat in playing board games. And I was like, oh my God, I was lashed up down the West End in San Antonio getting a tattoo.
Yeah, different ways.
So that's what I'm saying. It kind of, you know, he's the gentleman to kind of me, and, you know, but had I probably have met him 10 years prior, the relationship would have never worked, because I'd have buried him. And so I think I was at the right point at the right time that we met.
I think that's important to point out as well, because so many people sometimes are just, and I think it is the Disney picture of that, you know, that you should meet when you're young, where this, whatever the other. And I think there's an element of timing, because I think for me, up to a certain point, I was very career orientated, more than I'd like to admit, or more than I would have liked to admit at the time, shall we say. And I think a lot of people used to see me as a commitment phobe. It wasn't that I was a commitment phobe at all. It was just that it wasn't right.
Exactly.
It wasn't right for me at the time. It wasn't right for me, full stop. And I think it's understanding that, you know, timing is actually essential.
Yeah, no, totally. And, you know, I am very fortunate in the fact, and this isn't to do with, well, it is to do with Mark, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't, you know, have my daughter. But, you know, people talk about love at first sight, and I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, pass the bucket. It doesn't exist. But it does exist, and I totally know what that looks like and what that feels like, because when I had my daughter, the minute I clapped eyes, because we almost lost her right at the very end, so it was a bit of a traumatic birth, shall we say. So, but the minute they gave her to Mark and held her up, my God, it hit me, and I totally know what love at first sight is. 100%, I fell in love with her. As much as I could quite happily throttle her now. Yeah. But, you know, when people talk about love at first sight, you kind of think, it doesn't exist. Okay, it wasn't as in a relationship side of things that I felt that or saw it or experienced it. But it was through, you know, having my daughter. And like I say, the minute I clapped eyes on her, that totally was love at first sight. So a relationship, but, you know, a mother-daughter relationship. Because as well, I think she was something that I never thought that I would have. And that we tried so long for and kind of gave up on, because, you know, I was 42 when I had her. I was an old mum, so never ever thought it was going to happen, to the point where we did give up, and then it happened.
It's actually often the way, isn't it?
Exactly. So, you know, I'm fortunate to know what love at first sight actually means, what it feels like and what it is.
And in a romantic relationship, what would you say are the important little touches?
It's the consideration. It's the knowing someone, to know when, you know, to pick up on the signs when something's not right, and to just acknowledge it sometimes, you know, and having the right timings with things, and just being there. They're important touches. It's not the material things, and it's like, you know, again, it's like I kind of say to Mark with things like Valentine's Day and stuff like that, I hate it because it's such a money spinner. And he knows that he's not allowed to buy me flowers unless they're out of the garage or out of Lidl's, or because that doesn't mean anything. You know, even with like Mother's Day and things like that and stuff that he'll get me from the daughter, you know, it's like, it's not the big gestures, it's the small things that don't cost much that go a long way, or that don't cost anything that go a long way. And it's about creating memories. It's not about the glitz and the glamour, it's about the memories. And it's those things that to me is what's important. I know other women that are totally opposite, and it has to be hearts and flowers and the, you know, the massive gestures, and if it isn't, then won't be tied, the poor guy. But for me, that's not what it's about. It's the little things that mean a lot. So yeah, just not the big things.
When you were younger, what was love to you, and how different is it now?
So if I could, as a 51-year-old, speak to myself as, say, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old, it would be, do you know what, you need to kiss a few frogs to find out. I think you need to go through the stupid stuff to know what you want, because otherwise,
How do you know?
Exactly. And you know, I look at somebody very, you know, like my niece, and my niece, she literally, her first boyfriend, she's been with all her life. And she's, what, my 51, she's 41, so she's got 2 kids, you know, all the rest of it, but she's always been with that one partner, which, okay, back in different generations is the honourable, you know, right thing to do. But I just think it's incredibly sad, because to me, she's never lived. She had so much creativity. She could have done so much. She's never really had girls' holidays, been out, experienced other things. It's not because she, you know, she got tied down with kids, because, you know, they didn't have kids to start off with and stuff. But I just think she missed out on so much, and kind of need to test the waters a bit.
I think sometimes it's also the experience of rejection, however wrong that sounds. But I have a couple of people I know whose kids have been in similar relationships, shall we say, where they've been with the same person since they were 14 or 15, and they've not experienced rejection, which has made actually things difficult in a work environment.
Yeah.
Because it's not a feeling or something they're used to, like, shall we, I don't want to say normal people, but do you know what I mean? Most people will experience rejection at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's that rejection. And I think the biggest one that hurt me the most was the first guy I was engaged to. But I think that's more because we'd ended the relationship. He begged me to get back with him. I refused and said, you know, no, it's stupid. We've finished, we've ended, you know, enough, there's no point. But kept on and on and on and on and on for me to get back with him. And I did. And then it wasn't that long after that he'd been off with some other bird. And I think the point, because he'd got into the police, so he was in the police force. And I think the biggest thing that hurt me with that, obviously, was him. But I think the biggest rejection there was because he had smarmed his way in so much with my mum and dad. My mum and dad actually went to his passing out parade with his new girlfriend. So you can imagine how I felt on that one. And
I bet you went overly impressed.
So even 40 odd years later, my dad, God rest his soul, I would never forgive them. I would never do that to my daughter. But yeah, so that really hurt. But from his perspective, and then that was just the icing on the cake when my mum and dad went to his passing out parade with his new girlfriend. That was a real kick in the teeth, and that was real rejection, but rejection from him as well as family. Yeah, that one hurt.
Would you say you've got any regrets?
No, because I don't live life with regrets. My mum always accuses me of being so much like my dad. My dad, he didn't have all the technology and stuff, and it wasn't his era or anything like that, but he certainly lived life to the full. And she always very much accuses me of burning the candle at both ends, not stopping. But you're a long time dead. The way I kind of look at it is, life's not a rehearsal. We get one shot, and I am certainly not going to turn up to my grave all pristine, neat, tidy, and in a lovely dress. I'm going to go skidding in with my hair messy, going, woohoo, what a ride, with no regrets. There's one regret that I have in life, and that was when you had the right to buy the council property back in the 80s, but I'd never done it. That's my biggest regret, because then I wouldn't have had to have struggled as much as what I have to get property and stuff. But on everything and anything I've done, no, because whatever I've wanted to do, I've done.
Fair enough.
And that's very much how I bring my daughter up to be. And yeah, if you want it, go for it.
Okay. Well, believe it or not, we're already getting towards the end of our time together. So my last question really would be, if someone was listening to you right now and they were struggling in their relationship, what would you say to them?
Sometimes you need to just take yourself out of the picture and reflect and be a little fly on the wall and look at what's happening in front of you. And even if there's kids involved, I'm not a believer in staying with somebody for the sake of the children, all of that, because it's not a good environment for the children to be in if the relationship's not good. So it's that kind of take a step back, really look at what's going on from an outsider point of view, and put your hand on your heart and just say, one life, no rehearsal, what do you want? And sometimes you've just got to step through that to get to the other side, to get to the better place. And sometimes it's going to hurt. And sometimes you have to go through that and through those experiences to truly be who you want to be and do what you want to do. I'm not stupid, and sometimes we can't always do that because there's restrictions, mortgages, money, things like that. So yeah, we have to watch. But really have a look, because if you want it, you can get it. And the biggest thing that I'll say to anybody for loss, for anything, and it's good old Kung Fu Panda when the turtle's talking to him when he's ready to give up with everything, and the turtle stands on the hill and says, don't worry about what was or what will be. Always remember, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. So enjoy your present, enjoy your gift, make the most of it, because you're not here for long.
No, true. Lesley, thank you so much. That's very much all we've got time for. But it was lovely talking to you.
Andrew.
Thank you. And for everybody else, if you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.